London, Xi Jinping had a good year in 2017. It began on the international stage at Davos, when the Chinese leader, in sober suit and tie, assured his nervous audience that China was a steady ally that stood by its treaty commitments, including the Paris Agreement, and was firm in its commitment to globalization. The contrast with the US president was too obvious to need stating. As the year draws to a close, Xi, in his domestic capacity as chairman of everything, appears to have consolidated his leadership of party, army, and state into an unassailable, long-term dominance. It is worth asking then what Xi Jinping means by his commitment to globalization and to tackling climate change, and, in what way China, the world's biggest emitter of greenhouse gases, might fill the leadership vacuum created by the absence of the United States. Backing for Paris Agreement not in doubt. Xi's backing for the Paris Agreement is not in doubt. China's climate policy is closely aligned with its long-term industrial and economic strategy in support of a necessary transition from low-added value, high-emitting industry to a higher value, more efficient, cleaner and more advanced economic model. China has long identified low-carbon technologies as technologies of the future, and the development of its strengths in these areas figures largely in its 13th five-year plan. China's ambition to dominate the global market in low-carbon goods, renewable technologies for example, is well advanced. The battle for dominance in electric vehicles and in the next generation of batteries is underway. Unlike Donald Trump, China's leaders see the energy transition as an important economic opportunity, and one in which they have invested considerable time, money, and political muscle. This does not, in itself, make for an outstanding record. In some sectors, China's record is impressive, and its leaders can certainly claim credit. Its domestic mitigation, however, is patchy, and there are large, problematic sectors where the legacy of previous choices makes transition slow and erratic, the use of coal in primary energy generation being the most obvious example. China could demonstrate leadership by raising its domestic ambitions and encouraging others to do the same. Nor does China's position add up to global leadership, or indicate that China will become the mobilizing force the world requires to ensure that global average temperatures rise no more than 2 degrees Celsius. The positive dynamic generated by the 2014 US-China climate statement and the cooperation that was built around it has dissipated with the arrival of Trump in the White House. As yet, China shows few signs of going it alone, and the fact is China is not yet a global diplomatic leader and may never become one, despite Xi Jinping's assertion of China's power. There are other negatives in any judgment of China's climate leadership. Its external investments include substantial amounts of new coal-fired power stations in Southeast Asia, for example, and its investment practices and external trade favor high-carbon sectors. Exporting dirty industries may help China meet its own national mitigation targets, but it does not help the world tackle climate change.